Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for suing my ex for not paying rent? So a couple of months ago my girlfriend of 4.5 years broke up with me. She gave reasons, mainly that she didn't have the energy to be in a relationship with me anymore. I did not want to break up and I'm pretty shook about the whole thing as this is my first real love, long-term relationship and breakup. It was the two of us and my best friend all sharing a house. When she broke up with me she made it clear she wanted to exit the lease and was going to stay with her mom who lives about an hour away. She gave me these options. The first and best option was to sublet the lease and have someone sign in her place. We actually did have someone who wanted to do that which would have worked out perfectly for everyone. However, the landlord made it clear that was impossible without signing a new lease entirely and we don't consider that an option. The second option is for me and my friend to sign her out of the lease. She would pay a $500 fee and then we would be stuck paying her rent for the duration of the lease, 5 months. Me and my friend said this isn't a good option for us since we can't afford to pay all of that plus utilities. The third option is that a $5,000 termination fee is paid and the lease is ended early. This would leave all of us living with our parents again for a couple months. Me and my roommate didn't want to do this. We told her she would have to pay the entire $5,000 and we wouldn't split it 3 ways. She says she cannot afford that and we are obligated to split it since we are all on the lease. After talking to my friend's dad who is an attorney he made it clear those were not our only options. He said unless she pays the entire termination fee we could just do nothing and keep the lease going. This was a good option for me and my friend but bad for my ex. She would have to drive an hour to work and back and pay rent for a place she wasn't staying. This would also prevent her from getting her own place until the lease was over. When we told her this was the option we are choosing she quickly took all her things out of the house and completely ghosted both me and my roommate. So pretty much a month goes by and she doesn't pay her portion of the rent. We spoke to the landlord who said she was not answering any attempts to contact. I even texted her dad. My friend's dad says we are able to sue her for her portion of rent. So we did and are currently waiting to have the papers processed and served. It won't cost us any money in the long term since my roommate's dad will represent us for free. However, this seems to be completely screwing her over and it feels petty taking legal action against my ex-girlfriend of almost 5 years. This would also potentially mess up her renter's history. Is it too far suing her or is this a reasonable response?
Editor's reaction, definitely not the a-hole. It's true that relationships fizzle out but she could have been mature about it and stayed until the lease was up. Ghosting is petty and they could have looked harder for alternate solutions. I am not sure about the laws but maybe the landlord could have been more accommodating.
AITA for expecting my fiancée to pay her share of bills even though she has a mortgage payment on a previously purchased house she wants to keep a separate asset. I'm engaged to a gal who purchased a home early in our relationship, prior to our engagement, for her and her 9-year-old daughter. My kids and I would stay at the home with her typically 1 weekend per month when I was visiting my 2 kids who lived nearby. We always did projects around the house to help fix it up at my cost. We all live together now in an apartment in a different state that we both picked out together and moved into at the same time. She came from out of state. I was local. I covered 100% of expenses while she settled into a new job over 3 months. This included rent, parking, storage, all utilities, rental insurance, literally all expenses for the home. Now that she's settled into her new job, I've asked her to pay her fair share of expenses. By fair, I suggested we total our combined incomes, determine the percentage we each contribute, then pay that percentage of the joint bills, e.g. my income makes up 59% of our joint income, so I'd pay 59% of the joint bills. I thought this to be more fair than 50-50ths, even though she's using more of the home's value, her and her daughter versus just me. She asked if we would include her mortgage in the joint bills as we had loosely talked about before. I told her I'd be open to it, but that she needed to be aware that commingling our funds to pay the mortgage would make her house a joint asset. I also said that if I didn't have a stake in the property, I wasn't interested in paying any bills for it. She balked hard at this, saying she'd have to cut back on paying down her prior debt so she could cover both the mortgage and her 41% of our bills. She also insinuated that I should pay even more than the 59% proposed. I was surprised and a little appalled, particularly since she knows I'm carrying substantial debt as well. Am I the a-hole? Am I missing some perspective? Edit. We did talk about her contributing to expenses when we moved in together and my potential financial contribution to the mortgage. We did not discuss a specific percentage or dollar amount, and she didn't realize that my paying would make the house community until I ensured she knew that first. Yes, I agree. We should have been more explicit. I shouldn't have assumed that a fair contribution wouldn't be an issue or that she would be okay with me having a stake in the property if I'm paying for it.
Editor's reaction, not the a-hole. You've already done enough on your end to contribute to her separate asset and have made relaxations earlier. She could just rent that asset out to help pay the bills. If maintaining her separate assets and debt is difficult, it's not your problem. You are not obligated in any way to maintain her separate asset if you don't have joint ownership. Like, share and subscribe for more such stories from Late Night Story Time. Don't forget to press the bell icon to stay updated.